All right, well, welcome to Come to Papa. I'm Tom Papa, and today we are spending some time with my good friend, Mr. Rob Zombie. From his early days in his band White Zombie to his current solo days, Rob is a rock star, comic book author, writer, and director of movies such as The House of Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects, Halloween 1 and 2, and we're catching him today at his home in a very rare moment of rest, as he just finished a tour of Europe and Australia and is about to head to Vancouver to start directing again. Rob, the haunted movie of El Super Beasto, where does that rank in your career?
That is that's the dark horse that's coming up on the side. It's really funny. I mean, you remember we worked on that thing for so long that it became like you started getting that look on your face, like, really?
Yeah, is this
we ever going to finish this?
Right.
I know I'm driving out to your house every day, and
really, we for those who don't know, the haunted movie of El Super Beasto was an animated movie, and it came off of your comic book.
A long, painfully animated.
And I remember you coming to me and saying that you had this idea for this movie, and you wanted me to be the voice of it. Was the first thing.
Yeah, this is how that went down. I was sitting there in my house, and I was like, oh God, I got to find someone to do the voice of Super Beasto. And I was thinking, and Sherry, my wife, goes, just get Tom to do it. I was like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. He's funny. Let's get Tom. I was like, good. He can help write it too, because I'm sick of this thing. Perfect.
Well, that's what happened. Is like we got brought in. Originally, I think the script was done or near done.
Well, it was really kind of a weird one. That whole movie started off as a big misjudgment on my part, in the sense that I was editing The Devil's Rejects.
Right.
And I thought, oh, good, I want to turn El Super Beasto into a movie, which was always what I wanted to do.
Right.
The comic was really, a way to have someone else pay for making storyboards almost.
Right.
And I thought, oh, I'll just produce it.
Yeah.
Foolishly. I'll hire someone else. They'll run with it. They'll get it done.
Do
so
it.
I met a bunch of people, and I thought, one guy in particular would be good for it.
Yeah.
And the project just languished, and this guy did the thing that people like to do, is like, oh, I'm not going to listen to anything you say. I'm going to go off on any tangent that I want all the time.
Right.
And you know how that always ends with the phrase, well, you're fired.
Right, exactly. And that's where I came in. It was like you almost had like a rage about it. It was like, no, we're going to write this. We're going to make it funny.
It was a weird thing. So I got rid of that guy. Nothing against him. I mean, he had done good work, and I thought he was funny, but he just had an agenda that wasn't my agenda.
Right.
And then you came on board, and we were working.
Yeah.
But it was always languishing in the background, because I still sort of thought, like, oh, someone else will sort of deal with it.
Well, isn't that always the way? Like, you always think, like, oh, this will be a fun project. I'll create this project, and I'll let some other people, I'll just produce.
Yeah, I'll produce.
But then when it's your name on it...
and then you realize that you will produce nothing, because no one will actually do any work when you're not
right, and no one cares about it as much. And also, it was very different. Like, by the time we would just get together at your house and drink tons of coffee and write this thing. And I remember just laughing. We laughed constantly.
And I think the phrase, I don't know if anyone but us thinks this is funny, seems to come up a lot. Is this funny? I don't know. I think it's funny, but is it stupid? Does it make sense? That was a big phrase too. Does this make sense?
Does this make any sense?
No, not really.
And then I remember the one part that we laughed the hardest was that the rats coming out of Uncle Carl.
Yeah.
And I remember just literally, we had to shut down the whole day, because we were just literally, what if we have just 1 million rats come out of this guy's ass?
Right, and that's the type of thing that when you're trying to pitch it to people, no one finds funny.
Exactly.
But I do remember before we got to that point, then, it took 4 years, I think, from start to finish.
Yeah.
And then at one point, secretly, they went off and rewrote the whole thing.
Right.
And spent a fortune reboarding the entire movie.
Yeah.
And I came in one day and they go, oh, here's what we were doing. And you weren't there, but I remember I was furious.
Yeah, I remember
I'm
that.
like, you guys wasted 6 months and all that money behind our backs.
Yeah.
And they just written this other thing that was so horrible.
I think you had like 3 tours in the time that we did.
Yeah.
It would be like, okay, now we're getting close to making it. Well, I'm going on another tour.
I'm leaving again.
I'm making it. I think you also made Halloween 1 during that time.
Definitely made Halloween.
And I think you were finishing you were finishing Rejects and did Halloween, and we were still like, oh, here comes Beasto. But what's really cool about it is that we talked about it, we're both kind of feeling it. It almost has this cult following.
That's
like
the
people are
funny
coming
thing.
out of the woodwork and being like, "Hey, you're Beasto," and people are bringing the dolls and asking me to sign the dolls, and it's really kind of catching on.
It's really weird because after it was all done, like once we got Chris Hardin Firm involved to do songs, we were like, this is really coming together.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was the company kept changing hands. Remember?
Yes,
it would
we
be
were
from Phil Merlman to IDT to Stars until it was like. By the time we were done, that was the one good thing though. No one was paying attention to what we were doing.
No, exactly.
So,
especially Paul Giamatti.
Yeah. Yeah, I often wonder what he thinks because he did his voice tracks so early in the process.
So
It's
early.
almost like we wrote the movie around his voice tracks because we knew we couldn't get him back.
We got right. We just used him. I remember him. He was so great. We're like we couldn't believe he was doing it. And then he played Dr. Satan, and I remember being in.
I don't think he could believe he was doing it either.
I know, but he was really cool. Like,
he was amazing.
He thought the script was really funny, and
he was so funny.
He came out of that voiceover booth just sweating.
I have the film of him doing his voice.
You do?
And it's so funny. He's so animated.
He becomes the character.
Yeah, he was phenomenal.
I remember like that one awkward moment of when you had to ask Dr. Satan was pleasuring himself in his bed. And we're like, can you give us some noises for that?
That's like the best scene in the movie. Almost.
And it's so like demonic. It's like,
keep it going, buddy. Keep it going. Stick to it. Stick to it.
yeah. Come on, buddy. You can do it. You can do it.
Oh, yeah.
He was so amazing. So now, who knows? We're thinking about making it into a TV show.
I forgot to shut my phone off.
It'd be good.
Yeah, no, and the funny thing is I just got back from Australia, and I figured no one even heard of it.
Yeah.
But I forget now, too. The web. Everyone knows everything.
Yeah.
So, no, I mean, the fan base is huge. And, yeah, now let's make it a TV show,
let's
dude.
make it a show. I know. I love the idea of
Let's make
making
it a radio show. It'd be so much easier.
Yeah, a radio play, exactly. I'll just break into Bisto's voice.
Yeah, it's like, we should.
It really would.
Screw all that animation.
Yeah, forget about Come to Papa. It should become to Bisto. Bisto hosts the show.
Just to break into a little radio show segment.
So now you just got off tour, and
yes,
it was kind of a long tour.
Well, it's weird that now the new thing that we've figured out is the music business is dead.
Yeah,
I think you heard the bells tolling.
Yeah.
So what we never really come off tour. Like it used to be like you'd make a record, you'd go on, you'd be like on a touring cycle, then you'd stop, make another record. But now records are so irrelevant to the process that it's like we just don't ever stop. We take a month off or a few weeks, but then we just go back out. And the world's so big now. It's so not the world that got bigger, but I mean the touring markets have gotten so big you can just go almost anywhere
on the planet.
I mean, it would just take you years just to get through everything.
But don't you feel like you still? It seems like you say that it's dead and you're not pushing the album, but people want content more than ever.
That's the weird thing. It's like it's the weird thing. Yeah, the content is more in demand than ever.
Yeah.
Just the desire to pay for the content is not in demand.
They just want it for free.
And I think also they also want I don't know what it wants. I mean, you discuss it to death. I mean, because the funny thing is like, the ticket sales and the T-shirt sales and all the things that surround it are better than ever.
Right.
But I just think that
but you still feel like you want to make albums. Like
it's weird because you still want to make stuff. And the way I look at it is like you make a record, and if you can get one or two songs from that record to somehow work into your repertoire, consider it a win.
That become part of the act.
Yeah, because kids just aren't album oriented anymore. I don't.
No.
They just don't think that way. They think, oh, that's a cool track. I'll just download.
It's
that.
tracks. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I remember when you were a kid, it was like when I got The Wall.
Yeah.
It was like we waited all summer to get The Wall, me and my friend, and when we got it, we just were so excited, and we didn't leave the basement for the rest of the summer
you
because
just studied
the lyrics and the cover, and you'd listen to every single song. It was an experience. It really
overinterpret every single little tiny thing on the package.
Right. Now you just get a track, and hey, he's coming around again.
Well, I think that's the thing too that I was thinking that digital downloads, even though they're convenient, and I'm not crying about piracy.
Yeah.
They're just not as distinguishable from one another in a sense. Like if you bought like a Diana Ross record or a Kiss record, it was very different the way it looked and seemed. But now, a digital file, it's all the same.
No, it's completely the same. It's
and
more
it's
more like the listener kind of creates their own library.
Yeah.
Like so you look at someone's iPod, and everything's just kind of mushed together.
Right, and I often do. I do this all the time. And I kind of stopped doing it. I would download stuff off iTunes and forget I downloaded it, and it would be lost in the 50 gazillion songs.
Yeah.
And I go, I bought that record twice, and I don't remember.
Right, exactly.
But now I've been buying vinyl.
And I have a record player I've been doing
I
that
find
too.
myself focusing so much more when I'm.
You do.
Mostly because every 20 minutes you got to flip the record over. But
Right, exactly. But you also have the thing in your hand, and you're kind
it's
of like
just
spending some
interesting,
time
and going
with it.
back and buying records that I didn't have, and going like, wow, this came with all. Because I
Yeah.
found this really amazing record store in St. Louis when I was on tour, and I'd buy all these records. Like, oh, I didn't, and it had everything in it, and was just blown away by like even records that I thought had nothing were
Yeah.
so elaborately packaged.
Yeah, I was doing this thing where I would go to the Comedy Cellar and I would do a spot, and then on the way home with the $20 they gave me for doing the spot, I would go to the record shop on the corner and just buy an old comedy album.
Yeah.
So like these old Pat Cooper albums, it's like I'm a Hero or something. It's like him in a big hero sandwich roll, and I mean just, and it's so funny. Like when I look at my stuff and like the heritage of comedy. It's like a guy in a hero role, and I mean, there's so other things to be proud of, but there's also things that are just so goofy. And you just came from the Hall of Fame, where you inducted Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it always seems cooler than comedy. For some reason, music just seems like. But for you, like you always seem to like look at comedy.
I guess it's like you always find the thing that you don't do more interesting.
It's true.
Like I always I was talking to somebody else. I won't say who, but another huge musician.
Yeah.
And we were talking about like why we don't have any friends who actually are musicians.
Right.
Like he hangs out with mostly actors or something.
Really?
And for some reason in LA, it seemed like every single person I was friends with was a comic.
Really?
And I would find it so interesting.
Yeah.
If someone's like, "Oh, my band's playing," I'd be like, I'll pass. But if you're
bored.
like, "Hey, I'm doing a set," I'll be like, "Let's go."
Right.
It just seems so interesting.
It's funny. I mean,
weird.
You are really funny, and there's always a sense of humor to all of your work also.
Yeah, I don't know why it is. I guess I can't. I take everything so seriously that I can't take anything seriously. You know that
Right.
feeling? Like,
Yeah, right. Yeah, it almost becomes too much. It's like I need to like the comedy is like the release valve for it.
I guess everything's pretty absurd when you think about it too much.
I remember when you and I were working on the movie, and you had an idea for another movie. I think it was for T-Rex or something.
Oh, yeah.
And you pitched the idea to me. You're like, it's going to be about this guy, and I was like, oh, that sounds really funny. You're like, well, it's not really a comedy.
I have to fight the urge to ruin movies with too much comedy.
Well, that's what I've said this to you before, especially I think after Devil's Rejects. The thing that I find so troubling about your work is that you make me feel so safe and happy watching the movie, and it's funny, and like this, like these elements of clowns and kind of thing, and I'm like really enjoying it, and then it gets. Then you take it so dark,
Yeah.
and then I'm like all disturbed, and then you like take the viewer out of it again. Are you conscious of that when you're doing it?
Well, a little bit. I mean, I guess when you're editing, you're thinking, okay, like actually when Devil's Rejects was done, and I don't know how good anyone remembers it, but there's just the one scene in the motel.
Yes.
Where that's probably the bleakest moment. I thought to myself, God, that was so intense. The whole movie could have been the hotel.
Right. It gets really disturbing at that point.
This could have been the whole movie, but then I thought, because it was so intense.
Yeah.
I was like, but would that make for an unwatchable movie after a while?
Right.
Because sometimes I've seen movies like that, certain horror movies, and I think they're really incredibly well made. They're usually foreign films, but then they're so unpleasant after a while. I go, well, is this actually entertaining, and would I ever want to watch it again? And the answer is usually no.
Right.
So that's why I guess when you're editing, you kind of think, you want to diffuse it a little, but you don't want to do it too much, because I think that there's a kind of a weird. I argue with this with people sometimes, even though maybe I do it myself too much. Mm-hmm. Is that they became this thing like, oh, horror needs comedy.
Right.
But every time someone mentions their favorite horror movie or the classics, none of them have any comedy in it.
Oh, interesting.
No funny bits in The Exorcist that I recall.
Yeah.
or Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, you're right.
Or any of those films. But for some reason, everyone thinks like, oh, and I think that became like a fallacy. So actually,
Oh, that's interesting. It's almost your craving.
Yeah,
it's like you're
like-
craving to have a laugh.
I think maybe people enjoy it, but I think it plays it too safe. So I don't know. I mean, there's no rules, but
Yeah.
Actually, the new film I'm going to make, I want to make it just incredibly bleak and just like people are like, oh man, who gave this guy money to do this? This is brutal.
Not let us off the hook at all. But even your, it's always such an interesting mix watching you work. I mean, your live shows are completely off the hook. They're huge spectaculars. It's like there's an intensity. There's like a real raw intensity, and then there's also this playfulness where you'll have like skeleton hands and crazy videos going on, and it's almost. Whimsical is almost too light, but there is this mix of like.
Yeah, there's a weird vibe because like I mean, I guess it's just my personality.
Right.
You know, where
That's
it's like,
exactly right.
you know, there's wacky stuff going on behind me that could make you laugh. But then you get so wound up that if someone gets in your face,
Yeah.
you'll just punch them in the face, go, oh, crap, I just punched that kid in the face.
Right.
Because you're so, like,
Right.
crazed. Where sometimes I watch bands and they're trying so hard to be serious.
Right.
And then I see them get off stage and they act like total dorks. So it's like,
Right.
I just think
You're just-
it's just genuine. And I think
It's
all
just
the
what
best
you
stuff
are.
is genuinely whoever that person is. That's
Right.
why I always feel like,
Yeah. Did you always have that? Were you, as a kid, did you have that kind of mix?
Yeah, I think
Were
it
you
was
intense
because-
as a kid?
yeah, I kind of tried to calm down over the years. I was like real high strung about things in the early days
yeah?
of having a band. I'd be like everything was the end of the world.
Really?
Now I'm pretty much like, whatever about everything.
Were you like that before you had a band? Like when you were a kid? What made you decide to...
I don't know. I was just a lazy good for nothing as a kid.
Where'd you grow up?
In Massachusetts.
Right.
It's actually kind of astonishing I've achieved anything.
Why, you were just... Were
Well,
your
I mean, I
parents-
just felt. I mean,
Were you a good student?
No, I was. I did this. Someday, which I never will, but if I ever did write my autobiography,
Right.
the title would be "Has the ability but will not apply himself."
Right.
Because that is the comment I got on my report card every semester for every year of my life.
Great potential.
Yeah,
But
has
you
the potential but will not use
You
it.
won't try.
So that I
Did you have a lot of friends? Were you just screwing around in school?
No, I didn't. I had a couple other nerd friends that were all into weird stuff that no one ever heard of.
Oh, yeah?
Of course. And you know, it was.
Did you have a lover of all these like kind of films and stuff when you were a kid? Like
Yeah,
the
I mean,
horror
it was
genre
the same
and-
thing. Like it was like I wouldn't do. All I cared about was art class because I'd spend
Right.
time in art class silk screening Clockwork Orange T-shirts, whereas not having any
Right.
idea how to do algebra and didn't care
Right.
because I was like, I'm never going to use this, and I was right, by the way.
Yeah.
I've never have used algebra in my life, nor geometry.
No, but you make a lot of T-shirts.
Yeah, but I have sold a lot of T-shirts. So
And were your parents? How did your parents respond when you would bring home report cards that said he's not trying?
I don't know. They didn't seem that worried. My parents are funny. They would let me watch anything I wanted. They didn't seem bothered at all by weird stuff like that. I would, that I was
Yeah.
in second grade, totally into Alice Cooper and wanting to watch incredibly violent movies like Taxi Driver. They didn't seem to.
They didn't care.
They didn't, but not like because they were like wild hippie parents. They were
Right.
very normal. But for some reason, they never said. I don't ever remember them going, "You shouldn't be watching that." It was like.
Yeah.
Like they weren't thinking what could possibly go wrong.
Right,
But then I do
exactly.
remember around sometime in high school, my mom just going, "Why can't you just be normal?"
Oh, really?
Like one day,
Too late.
because I was, I was
She
like,
should have
"I'm
thought about
sorry,
that when he was 4."
That ship has sailed.
You're right. What'd your dad do?
He worked in a furniture factory.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, there's
So
nothing
he was around a
wacky
lot.
really in my life.
Yeah. And you had sister?
No, I had one brother.
One brother.
Who's wacky too, and
Is-
I think it's the theory that I wonder, like sometimes, that like someone said to me the other day, I was talking to some producer I hadn't talked to in a long time, and
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh, my son's 14 now, and he's a total nerd." I'm like, "Good."
Right.
Because he'll stay out of trouble and he'll grow up to be really rich.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you don't want him to be a jock and then
Yeah.
end up at the bar.
I don't know. It's weird. Me and Sherry talk about that all the time because we're
Yeah.
like, what makes you not? It wasn't like you were doing these things because you thought it was cool, because it wasn't cool.
Right.
Why do you have why did you want to be a comic? Why didn't you want to
Yeah.
work in a shoe store? Like, what is it that makes you just go?
Go
I want to do this thing that
That no
by
one
all
else is
means I will
doing.
definitely never succeed at.
And you had no, I didn't have anybody in show business in my life.
I didn't even know anybody who knew anybody who heard of someone that was in show. Like when people go to me like, "Oh, his dad directed, such and such." Wow, nice
Well,
leg
of
up in the
course,
business.
right.
I didn't even know how. They have a movie theater where I lived.
Right.
Let alone.
I remember sitting there and looking at George Carlin's Class Clown, the album,
Yeah.
and being like, wait. My friends were all laughing, and I was just staring. I'm like, he's a grown-up. He's doing this as a grown-up? Like, this is his job? And
Yeah.
that, for years, it was just like, oh, my God, maybe I can go down that. I figure something out down there. That looks a little more fun than my dad going to work all the time. He doesn't seem to be enjoying it.
Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, that's funny. It's actually the miserable look on your parents' face sometimes is what keeps you from going down that road. Maybe
Was it a happy family life? Did you feel like?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel normal.
Just
I don't know.
normal,
It's
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you take a car trip to Florida, and you and your brother fight the whole time in the back seat, and your dad tries to hit you while he's driving with one arm, and you stay on one side of the car, and I stay on the other, and by the time you get there, you wonder, why did we do this? This is the most miserable vacation we ever took.
Right.
And we'll do it again next year.
And you remember it always.
Yeah.
Your parents are still together, right?
They're
around.
still together.
How long have they been married?
Forever. I don't even know. Like maybe like 50 years or something.
Wow.
Which is pretty incredible. Well, maybe not quite that, but almost.
And how long you been married?
I don't know. Well, me and Sherry have been together like 18 years, but I don't know how long we've been married.
Right.
8, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know. I forget.
Yeah. 18 years.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a long time.
And everyone's like, what was she, like 7 when you met her? Actually, she was, you know.
Yeah, well,
I was
patience,
cruising the schoolyard.
Patience. This is one of my favorite jokes of, what was his name? Emo Phillips. He said, one of my favorite jokes is, Woody Allen met Soon Yi when she was 4 years old. He started dating her when she was 16. Patience of a saint. But you guys have a real healthy relationship, it seems. I mean, you guys have been together,
I guess.
right? Not so much.
I don't know. What's healthy? We're still here and we're happy, so I guess it's healthy.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like I'm always shocked, like, again, like when you look at people in other elements of show business, like when I look at rock stars, it's like, well, you're not going to be with one woman because you can have every woman. But you have
Well, I think it's
stable
like
thing.
you just it's hard to I've always found it hard to get along with not get along with people, but you to find people that you can connect with.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so many people, like, I think when you have a really specific personality,
Yeah.
I'm not good at small talk and
Right.
like
No.
you know, and like Sherry's better at like small talk and talking to people, but I'll just be
Right. Yeah.
like, I just zone out.
know.
And she'll be like, what was that guy saying? I have no idea. I wasn't even listening when he was talking to me. You know, so
She's almost like your small talk like sidekick.
yeah, because I would just walk. I don't care.
Do you feel like if you weren't in a stable relationship that other parts of your work and stuff would suffer?
I think so, because it would be. I think so, just because it seems like you'd be like out of control, and once you're out of control, I don't know
Yeah.
that you would get anything done.
Yeah, it's almost like when I watch guys who everything becomes about hooking up and being with this girl, and like you're always in that thing of hooking up and building the relationship, and is it cool and all that. It's so I don't even have enough time in my head or room in my head to deal with what I'm dealing with now. Like to add a girl to it that I have to, or girls, would be, it's too much.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I see people that do that still. I mean, that's fine when you're like, you know, you're younger, but like as
Yeah.
older, it's like, really? Yeah. You're like
Right.
50 and you're still doing this thing. Like
Yeah, talk about small
15.
talk. Yeah.
Oh yeah, talk about small talk.
Yeah, you're like, oh, what? Okay, what does your sister do for a living?
I have certain friends that are like that, and I always have to give it a long grace period before I even bother meeting the new girlfriend, because I'm like, really?
Right.
Why do I have to suffer through that? She's going to be gone
Yeah,
in a week.
It's like becoming friends with someone in war. It's like we shouldn't get too close. 'cause
yeah,
the
you're going to get
chances
killed
are,
in that foxhole at any moment.
right, you're not going to make it.
Yeah, it's over. But it's funny, all the people that I'm close to, friend-wise,
Yeah.
all have stable relationships too, which is weird.
Well, yeah, because you can't really. There's not much to really, guys that are running around trying to get laid. You don't really have that much in common.
Yeah, I think, you don't. But I think in general, it's just a certain personality type.
Yeah,
I think that. I mean, you can look around this room, but you can't because it's radio.
right.
All the crap that I was obsessed with from the day I was born, I'm still obsessed with. Like you, I
Yeah.
think I just know what I like, I get it, and I'm good with it.
Right.
I'm never like, well, what's that guy doing over there?
Right. Yeah.
Like, I don't give a crap what that guy's doing over there. I'm worried about what's happening over here. But some people like that. They just can't stick with anything.
No, I mean
Period.
this is you. There's one thing I have to say: you have a very clear vision. For those who don't know, we actually have left New York and come up to Connecticut to be with you, and we are in the middle of the woods, basically.
The woods.
And but we are
We're in
in
the sticks.
We're in like a barn that you. This is like the greatest playhouse a guy
this
could ever want.
Barn is
Every movie
huge.
poster. I'm looking at Frankenstein. I'm looking at The Mummy. I'm looking at stuff from your movies. Your wife must never see you. Are you out? Are you out here all the time?
I'm. I wish I was. No, not really.
No.
I will be soon. I will never leave. The problem is when I do come out here, I don't want to leave it.
Yeah.
Hours will just drift by.
Yeah.
And I can just stand there like.
Because
Because it's just everything,
Yeah, it's the coolest.
Thousands of books and thousands of DVDs and thousands of everything. You could lock me in here forever, and I would.
It was funny on the
not
way
be
up.
entertained.
I was thinking, well, this doesn't seem like. I mean, because when we met, we were in L.A.
Yeah.
And and it seems like you always think of New York or L.A.
Yeah.
And we're driving up here in the country. I was like, this doesn't feel like a place where
Doesn't
Rob
seem
would
right.
be. But then, when we got off the highway and you see. This little sleepy town. It looks kind of chanting, but then there's like a cemetery on the hill.
It's a creepy looking town.
It is. It feels a little like
so old looking.
It feels a little like Halloween.
Yeah, and it's funny too because when you stand in certain areas, because it's a historical district, so everything is almost untouched.
Right.
And when you stand in certain point of views and look, if they just put dirt over the road, this probably looks exactly how it did in 1692.
Absolutely.
Like nothing has actually changed.
No, like you expect to see like Ichabod Crane,
Yeah.
like on horseback, like storming through here in the middle of the night. It is really cool.
And in the fall, man, it's just the ultimate like Halloween town.
Oh my God,
it's nuts.
It's got to be. Now, do you feel inspired when you're here? Do you feel like when I get to places sometimes, like if I go to the beach, I'm always like, I pack my notebooks. I'm going to write. I'm really going to work. And then after 2 days, I'm so brain dead I can't move. What does
It's
this
weird.
place
I
do
think
for
that
you?
this has inspired me in the sense that the next movie I'm working on sort of takes place in places like this.
Oh, yeah?
So it's good to it's easy to be writing amongst what's actually here
Yeah.
than sitting in Hollywood going like, I wonder what it's like in the country.
Right. And did that come about because you were here?
Yeah, actually, the script I started. The idea came up like 3 years ago when we first moved here,
Uh-huh.
and I kind of started writing it, threw it away, and then it kind of came up again this year, and we're already in production on it, but yeah, it's kind of funny.
What is it? Can you talk about it?
Yeah, it's this movie called The Lords of Salem.
Oh,
It actually takes place in
perfect.
Salem, Massachusetts, but
Oh, really?
which I was just up there like a couple weeks ago, location scouting. And it was
Yeah.
pretty wild. Hadn't been there since I was
Are you
going
going to shoot there? You're actually going to.
We'll shoot some of it there. I mean, we'll shoot some of it in L.A. probably too, interior stuff. But
What
we'll
was the
shoot-
vibe there? Is it kind of spooky?
It's cool. I mean, it's not how I remembered it, but as a kid, the stuff that you find interesting now, you wouldn't find interesting as a kid. You'd
Yeah.
be like, this is boring. Where's the TV?
Right.
But it's such I didn't realize how unique it was looking. It looked just because the streets are really narrow and the houses are all these big, super ornate wooden houses, and it's a cool vibe.
Oh, cool.
And this really creepy witch statue of Elizabeth Montgomery in the center of town.
Yeah. Elizabeth Montgomery.
It is. It's so funny.
That's hilarious. Wow, that's good. So now you're in production on it now?
We're in early pre-production because we needed
Right.
a lot of lead time because there's a lot of effects. So,
Oh, yeah.
my friend Wayne Toth, who I'm sure you've met many times at things, is
Yeah.
off working, and we'll go into heavy pre-production in August.
In August?
Probably start shooting in September. Yeah.
Oh, so you'll catch the fall.
Yeah, I wanted. We were gonna. We were thinking. We were originally scheduled to start shooting now, but I wanted to push it so that I could take advantage of because every
Right.
movie I've made is like Halloween. I shot in Pasadena
Yeah.
in July.
Right.
Well, that really helps capture that good Midwest fall feel. So this time I was like, why don't we actually make the movie where in some place at a time where it is incredible
real.
to look at.
Yeah, that's going to be really.
Because this is one of those places like when in the fall when the wind blows and it just rains leaves like
Yeah.
it's real.
Oh, it's going to be amazing.
It's pretty wicked.
I'm going to have a hard time not being in that movie. I'm really going to have to.
We'll have to put you in there now that we saw your dramatic turn in The Informant.
That's right. I can do dramatic.
Somebody was gushing about that the other day.
I would like to be killed. I would like to be killed in a
do.
movie.
Pretty much any role is going to end up that way anyway.
Right, exactly. It's usually right. One man standing. Is Sherry going to be in it?
I haven't revealed any casting yet,
Oh.
except for guess for Tom Papa.
Has Sherry? Oops. Spoiler alert. Has there?
Stupidest phrase ever.
I hate
right?
that. Right. Spoiler alert. You know what else? The other phrase I'm really sick of. Awkward Oh, enough.
Awkward.
Yeah, I saw some talk shows the other night. Like, all right, it's officially done.
Yeah.
Has Sherry been in every movie? She's kind of like your muse
Yes,
in a way.
yes.
She's
Yes, of course. Yes.
she has, right?
Yeah, no, it's. I love having her in the movies, and I love having people that I'm friends with in the movies. And
Yeah.
I've always done that, even with music videos,
Uh-huh.
because I always wanted it to mean something to me.
Right.
Because I would see so many bands, and it first started with music videos with it. They just hire some video director. He'd come up with their idea.
Yeah.
They just hire these people, and then you look back at the video, and go like, who are these people in this video? I don't even know who they
Yeah,
are, and
yeah.
supposed to represent me. So, even dating back to the early videos, it was always friends gathered around.
Yeah, but she seems to hold like I mean, of course, she has a special place in your life, but she was always involved in like some of your album covers. She would be on
Yeah, we
actually
always-
working on stage with you, and
We always work together on everything, and I always like that. It always makes. I think that's a big part of why we stayed together.
Yeah.
Still together, because she was always intertwined into everything. It wasn't
Right.
like, oh, I'm leaving on tour, see you later, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing. It was like
Yeah.
by always working together, and I like having. I think it's because too. I just naturally, all the people I'm good friends with, and everything. I always have working relationships with them. I don't
Right.
really have anybody in my life who's just a friend who like,
Right.
hey, let's go play golf.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
Ted.
Right.
Everybody is either
in the business somehow.
I either see them on a very intense level because we're working together, or I don't see them for a long time.
Right.
It's really weird.
Yeah, that is strange. But it seems like in a creative way, it's almost like to work with your wife like at a I don't know, in an insurance office. We can say, but this is like it kind of inspires both of you or enriches both of you at the
I
same
think
time.
it does. I think it does big time. It adds a lot to it.
Yeah,
And,
it's great. And and you guys, you're not having children, right? You decided
No.
not to have kids.
no,
That
because
kind of-
I
that
was
makes
going to until I heard everything that you would say about him, and I realized it was a mistake.
I'm glad. I'm
The
glad
time
I
you took me
talked-
aside at your barbecue and said, "Don't do it."
I did. I know.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. And you know what? We wouldn't be sitting in this cool house if you had kids. No, but there is that thing. Like, my wife and I get along great, but it's like the idea of both of us. Like, let's just go on tour together. It's like, well, what about those other two people that need food? Someone has to stay with them.
Yeah, I know. It's.
You still have the dog?
Yep, Dracula still sitting around.
I remember I always remember Dracula at this. I think it was some party you had, and it was like a small get together, and everyone was like, "Oh, that's so cute that Dracula's playing with that baby," and then it knocked the baby down and started dry humping it. It was like, "Oh my God, get
He's
it off of
having
the
sex
baby!
with that baby.
Get the dog off the baby! It's not funny anymore."
Baby probably had a full diaper. That's why Dracula was all hot and bothered. He's a fecal freak.
Is Dracula going to be in the next movie? you should, but I don't think Dracula's been in any of
No,
your
he
work.
hasn't. Oh, has he been in anything?
It would be good just to have him bolt through.
Yeah. No.
Now it seems like your live shows have gotten. You went through one tour. You went through where you're like, I'm just going to strip it down.
Yeah, we did
and real bare bones and just go back to basic
like
rock.
5 years ago. I think it was 2006. I think.
Yeah.
It was because I had stopped with the band for a while because. Once again, the band had degenerated into four people that couldn't stand each other, and I was like, ugh, enough of that.
You've had a lot of turnover lately.
Yeah, and then so I broke that band down, started a new band
Right.
after a couple of year break because I actually thought I was just going to stay with movies and stop doing music, just because keeping a band together is so hard,
Right.
and so stressful.
Why is it?
I don't know. I think when you keep, I don't know how original bands stay together because you
Yeah.
figure like. Say you started a project with a whole bunch of friends when you're 18.
Yeah.
Okay, now you're almost 50. How's that going for you?
Right.
Still all your best friends?
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Exactly. It seems impossible.
It does seem impossible, and that's why most bands that are still together seem like they hate each other and they all travel separately on private
Yeah.
planes and never talk to each other.
They just show up on stage.
But it's just a weird turnout. I mean, I have a core group. There's three of us that have now stuck it out now for 6 years, but there's always just
Right.
the fourth person that comes and goes.
And just constantly popping out, right?
You know,
just
not for
replace
any
your
reason.
drummer.
Yeah, you never want it to happen, but it does happen. So whatever.
Yeah.
Just get used to it after a while.
As a comedian, you do so many things alone, and it's like the closest you get is like if you bring your opening act, your own
Yeah.
opening act. It's like that one guy that you can kind of hang with. It always seemed like a cool thing to be in a band, like because you just get like it just seems like, well, it's 4 guys against the world kind of a thing, but I guess you don't really get that 4 same mentality guy.
I guess it's kind of like it's good and bad. I mean, like when you have the people that are your friends with, like right now, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Even though we had, we're losing a person for a minute because he was always temporary. We knew that.
Right.
It is the only time, like we'll be on tour and go, we might as well be 14. The level of responsibility we have right now is so nothing.
Right.
I mean, you're responsible to provide a good show, but that's
Sure.
fun, so you're going to do that anyway.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, it's like our biggest concern is like, is Family Guy on?
Right.
And is there any pizza left in that box?
Right.
That's the 2 most challenging moments of the evening.
And they actually are stressful.
Yeah. I think we saw this one again. That's where Quagmire did the thing with,
But this group, now, do you feel like is it like a family dynamic? Like you've been with these guys for a little while. You feel like, oh, I hope this works out. I hope we get to keep them together.
I think it's a band is weird. It is like a family or a marriage or something because I think that's the funny thing that with anything when you create with people.
Yeah.
Like, don't you get that feeling? Like it's because it sounds so cliche, but it's like your baby, but like you are joined with these people, like like we have this thing called Bisto. Like if we never talk to each other ever again, we still have this thing that will always link our names in people's minds, and you create this thing that becomes bigger than you.
And that's
what's so neat about it.
There's an emotional component to creating anything, I think, and you're vulnerable. You feel like this might suck, or this might be great, or are we doing? And so when you go through that with a person, it's a real shared,
because you don't know if it's going to work, and you have your highs and lows, the days where you think we're doing the greatest thing ever, and the days where like everything about this project is horrible.
Oh, we're terrible.
Who are we kidding? And then it works or doesn't work or whatever, but it always it becomes like this special thing, and that goes back to especially when you're working with people you like, because I don't like the moments that are not special for me. And I try to avoid them as much as possible, and it's going to always happen. Is like say you hire an actor and they just roll in, they do it, they leave, and you can tell it was
didn't mean anything to them.
Meaningless to them. Yeah, and then that it feels meaningless to you, their performance sometimes, or just them. Yeah, and that's why when people you notice a lot of directors use a lot of the same actors, right? And they always have. It's not like
really?
New. I mean, you go back and look and think.
Yeah, Hitchcock was always
Hitchcock or John Ford or Howard Hawks or Kubrick or whoever. You just even if sometimes it's just sort of like secondary actors in the background, you'll start seeing a lot of the same people. Yeah, I think it's because you have this bond, and plus you have the trust. Because sometimes, like you say, an actor will come and go, oh, I thought this guy was going to be great, but he sort of came in, clearly phoned it in, didn't give a crap, and left. Yeah. And now I'm stuck to figure out how to make this work. Whereas if you have someone who's your friend that you've worked with, you go, oh, they're going to come in, they're going to give it their all. It's going to be meaningful to them, and they're going to give me something that is special because they want it to be special too.
It's hard to get so many people. I mean, especially in a film, there's so many moving parts and so many people, and you're at the head of it, and you care a lot. And it's to get everybody else. No one is going to care as much as you. I mean, people are happy to have the job, and they really, it means a lot to them. But there's always going to be some elements of negativity. How do you keep that out of the production?
I think what you do is, for me, what you're always trying to do is put together the best production you can. Because every time you go through it, you go, oh, now I've got the most perfect DP or camera operator or makeup guy, and you keep adding people that become more and more like that core group that you never want to lose. Like
your troupe.
There's certain people that always using the same editor or something because he does care as much as you. Right. He's or these invested. People, they do care as much as you, and they really want to be there because I've done movies earlier on, especially the first movie where you can tell like. People just don't give a crap. And I go, how can you be in what is the greatest business ever, but you're going to show up for work? Yeah. But it's just a jaded, crappy attitude people have.
Yeah, they're just not. And it's, you generate everything yourself. Yeah. Right? I mean, you really, from the band to directing, it's really, do you feel like that, is there any difference between your life and your work? Is it all just completely one force?
It's definitely one big blur.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, how can it not be? I mean, you must
Yeah.
feel that way too. It's like
I do.
Like it's not like, oh, I'm going to write all these jokes about something that has nothing to do with my life. And maybe I would think that, but since I know you,
Right.
and you talk about something, I go,
It's
why
complete-
doesn't Cynthia kill him? He's so open about their life. How does he get away with saying that stuff?
Yeah, it is hard. But it also, I feel like if you're an artist, then it's got to come from you. I mean, some people can kind of maybe manufacture it, but I think if there's going to be, there's so much out there. Like we're talking about content. There's so much content. There's so much out. There's so much comedy. There's so much music, but there's only one you.
Yeah.
So you have to pour everything about you if it's going to be unique at all in the world. And unfortunately, my wife has to be brought along for that.
Along for the ride. And you can never try. That's why you can never try to ride the trends or figure out what's hot because
Right.
then it's totally fake. And you can't
Totally
do that
fake.
anyway because by the time you figure out, oh, that's what everybody wants, well, it's already over anyway.
Yeah.
But you see people doing that. But the people that don't do that, their careers go up and they go down because what they do is really popular for a minute, but then people are sick of it. But then it's so
Right.
genuine, it kind of comes back again. And
It's like a trend. It's hot for a little bit, and then
Yeah.
it's not. But
as long as it's true, I think it always remains.
yeah, I think I always have as a gauge when people are like, "Don't you want to go on vacation and like just get away from work and turn the phone off?" And it's just like, no, I want to keep that. I love taking a phone call on a Sunday night
Have you been talking
about
to Sherry? 'Cause
about
that sounds
comedy.
like something she'd say.
Oh, does she? Yeah, I was actually talking about my wife, but don't you feel like I have very little need for vacation because I feel like I enjoy
I feel like
this
my whole
stuff.
life is a vacation almost.
Right. I mean, look at where we're sitting. We're sitting here around movie posters and funky
Well, it's like
mummy
when
heads.
you get to do what you love for a living.
Right.
That means that your vacation is you getting away from doing everything that you love.
Right.
And I don't mind taking breaks because sometimes it is good just to clear your head. I mean, like
Yeah.
you do get stressed out, and sometimes
You don't even realize it.
I schedule too many things, and they start getting crazy. And I'm like, you start freaking out, like,
Yeah.
how I make this happen?
Right.
But I can only do that for so long because my brain never stops. Like,
No.
like if we're out on a boat, Sherry is lying in the sun getting a tan. I can tell she's just totally zoned out, and I'm like making notes constantly,
Right, exactly. Trying to relax,
pretending to enjoy listening to music where it's really something I'm making notes about. Or,
Right,
and just I can't stop. I can't shut my brain off. It
Yeah.
just always runs like that.
It's great, though. It really is. It really is unique, and it's so funny when people, because my comedy is, it's a lot about family life and it's a lot about just everyday kind of stuff, and I work pretty clean. And when they hear that you and I were working together, they're like, well, how does that? How did Rob Zombie and Tom Papa? But there's so much more common ground. There's more common ground than not.
It's total common ground.
Yeah, it's just you love what you're doing, and it's just hard work, and you're just enjoying it.
And it's funny because the people that people think I would get along with, I can't stand, and the people that I am friends with, they're like, "Really?
Right.
You hang out with those guys?" It's funny how we met too. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's how we met, but how we bonded.
Right.
We're
Tell
both
the
at a
people.
wedding, and we didn't know what to do with ourselves, which is actually funny because
Right.
that's the wedding where I actually, in the lobby of the hotel, I bought a book on the Salem witch trials, and that's what
Oh,
started
really?
the idea for the movie I'm doing.
Oh, that's funny.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
I still have it.
Yeah, we're both around normal people at a wedding feeling awkward, and it was like, I can talk to this guy for a while.
Yeah, we can both sit here and do comedy about this.
You're right, this will work out just fine. All right, good. Well, thanks, Rob. This was, it was so great to
It was
sit
good
down
to catch up, even if we have to have other people hear it.
Yeah, right. I know. But this is really great, and I can't wait to work on Beasto together and be in the lead of your next movie. And I'm glad. I'm glad it all worked out.
I think you should just come on tour and be the opening act.
I would love to do it. I hosted at Woodstock in
that work?
'99, and no, it doesn't work. Everyone's like, "You worked at Woodstock?" I was like, "Well, if you call trying not to get hit by work boots flying from the audience,
Yeah.
yeah, I worked." All right, thanks, Rob. It was great.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, man.
Bye.
I just need you to really quick read. Hey, this is Tom Papa sitting with Rob Zombie on Raw Dog, Sirius 104 and XM.
Word.
Saying a weird voice.
Hey, this is Tom Papa. You're listening to Come to Papa on Raw Dog. We're hanging with Rob Zombie on Sirius 104 and XM 150. I should probably keep those together, right?
Yeah. Try again, just like you're naturally coming back, like you're just starting the show.
Okay. Hey, this is Tom Papa, and you're listening to Come to Papa. We're hanging with Rob Zombie on Raw Dog, Sirius 104 and XM 150.
Perfect. And then when you come, we'll get you in the studio to do promos and stuff like that, so you don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
Right. Okay.
Okay?
All right. Great.
That's it.
Awesome. So fun, Rob.
Thanks for coming out. It was awesome. I gotta go to Vancouver. Did I tell you I'm